Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming in. Put the popcorns in the chat. Put the popcorns in the chat. Hello. I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'm sorry that I couldn't see you last night, but that's okay. I am here right now. I am here today. And I'm glad that you guys are joining me tonight. So, we're going to do another episode of Blassics. But before I start, I'm just going to say thank you. Make sure when you come in, make sure you like and subscribe. And tonight we're definitely going to be talking about all things popcorn, and we're going to talk about all things Moonlight. So I am definitely a little buzzed because before like last week I had went out. This week I had went out too. It was like a great social event for Black and Brown excellence here in Philly in the Germantown section. And I had a good time. It was food, it was networking, it was mingling, and it was a plethora of wine and signature cocktails. So you probably get a little buzz pop tonight. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for so if you are, when you come here or in the comments, whenever you read it, to make sure you just tell me, what are you sipping on tonight? Okay. Right now I'm sipping on water because like I said, I had two signature drinks, and then I had, a couple glasses of red wine at this event. So I'm getting a little juicy right now. So tonight I just want to say thank you guys for coming out. And we're going to talk about let's get this popping. And we're going to talk about Blast. This is another episode of Blastic. And tonight we're talking about Moonlight. The movie Moonlight that came out in 2016, directed, and the screenplay was written by Barry Jenkins. Let me tell you how I hate this movie. All right, so this movie was starring it's a couple of age movie. It's a drama, and it shows you three different eras of this individual's life. And then the character is based on Chiron, and him as a young boy, teenager, and an adult. So, all right. So, all right. So Alex Hibbert is Little. Now you know him as on The Shy. We have Ashton Sanders playing Chiron. He is the teenage Chiron. That's what we refer to him. And Tavante Rose. Ooh, delicious Tavante Rose. And he's adult Chiron, but he's pretty called as Black. And then also we have star Marshala Ali. He plays Juan, aka also Blue. We have Naomi Harris is played Paula as Sharon's mom. Janelle Monáe as Teresa. Jarrell Jerome as Kevin, and Andre Holland as Kevin, adult Kevin. So this film is based on a pretty much a unpublished semi-autobiography of Terrell McCartney. And it was called it was called In the Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue. And again, like I said, it's three stages of Chiron's life. It's the struggle with identity, abuse from his peers, his addict mother, and it also dives in to him finding identity, even sexuality. So before we move on, I just want to say a number of things of why I call this a blast. This is a beautiful, sad story, because not all stories are fairy tales. This is a more human story. The cinematography was amazing. It was beautiful. And let's get into it. So, why did I pick this as a classic? Because this movie did come out in 2016. And at this point, it's been almost what, 5 years, 6 years since this movie has aired, and it's a classic at this point, because plenty of movies have came out since then. It was directed by Barry Jenkins, and Barry Jenkins is a straight man, straight black man, but as a straight woman, I still felt like this movie was beautifully, was beautifully, portrayed. Like, he directed in the story that was told. Not only this movie, I feel like, was beautiful, this movie is also sad, you know? Just the struggles, of this young man. Um, a lot of takeaways from this movie. Not only was beautifully written and executed, there's some things that we can also see about this movie. Um, this movie also was pretty much shows you there was no there was no father figures for these for the main characters, and it also tackle a little bit of masculinity as well. Sharon, he also went through things of the abuse of his peers, his mom being addicted to crack, and shout out, you know what? Out of all the like 4 popcorns, I'm gonna give this movie 4 popcorns out of 4. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and give it that much because I felt like, what is a perfect movie? Um, this. I mean, the story was told. It was executedly, in my opinion, was, and how it still, when I saw it 5, 6 years ago, and how it still makes me feel today. Oh my God, how it still makes me feel right now. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be whispering, but this movie really had me in my feelings. Like, as a parent, as a black woman, like, this story, woo, child. Yes, put the popcorns in the chat. So let me tell you, those that are in the chat, let me know if you've seen this movie. Have you seen this movie? And out of 4 popcorns being great, to 1 popcorn being like fugazi and ain't shit. Tell me, how do you feel about this movie? I mean, like, how many popcorns out of 4 would you give this movie? Rate this movie out of it, and tell me in the chat why that you give it this rating. Okay, because let me tell you, when I say that this movie, I feel like was beautifully written. The actors really gave us a phenomenal performance, and there's a lot of films that us people of our black people are taking. This was out of the box, and it was a genre of that's not really a tap market about a coming of age. Because if it's a coming of age movie, 9 times out of 10, it's a coming of age. We have a little girl, little boy who likes a girl or whatever like that. But I'm glad that he tackled Sharon's story. It might not be the most fairy tale story, but it was a very real story. Um, Especially, having an addictive mother, growing up poor, not having a father figure, but it didn't gives it wasn't stereotypical. So Sharon's mother, so we're gonna start with like Sharon's mom. Sharon as little, when he's a school age boy. The opening scene of the movie already set the tone of his story. He's being chased by his peers, and he's being bullied. And we get Juan, played by also Blue, played by Marshala Ali, who actually won the Oscar for his performance in this movie. He noticed that this little boy is being, being chased and bullied. But we know right off the bat that Marshawn Ali is out here trapping. He's a drug dealer, and he actually, comes on the scene with an old time car and checking on his corner boys to make sure everything is moving on, doing whatever it is that they do. And he noticed that Little, aka Chiron, was being chased by his peers, and he hid into this like abandoned home. And that was the first meeting of Chiron and Juan. He asked him, why was he hiding? And he asked him why he was hiding, and slowly he gained his trust, and Chiron had came out. And he offered to take him home, but Chiron at this point, wouldn't tell him where he lived. So he took him home to him and his girlfriend. And it really wasn't ambiguous if Janelle Monáe, who plays Teresa, Juan's girlfriend, or Blue, but he never told him. We don't know if they were married or not, but he took him home. No, actually, before he took him home, he took him to a restaurant, like a diner, and tried to get a feel of this young man, because a part of him, I feel like he's seen, Chiron, a little bit of him. And that was a pivotal part because he fed him, and Chiron still wouldn't speak to him, still wouldn't tell him where he lived, still wouldn't tell him pretty much who he was. And but it was a little bit like gaining his trust. And then actually he took him home because he wouldn't tell him where he lived. So he took him home to his house, and that's when Teresa read him. And then he fed him again. And it was crazy because he was like, one thing I know that you can eat. And it was crazy because he was called Little, and Teresa asked him, like, well, what do they call you? What's your name? He said, they call me Little, but he was like, but my name is Chiron. And Teresa already said, well, I'm going to call you Chiron by your name. And I thought that was a pivotal scene too, because when he said they call him Little, she kind of felt like, to my opinion, based on what I've seen, was that he was being called Little by people who, because he was littler than most of his peers, and it wasn't like a term of endearment. So she said, I'll call you by your real name, Chiron, what it is. And she said, if you don't want to talk to me, then you don't have to. And that was one of the things that that stood out to me, because she was maternal without forcing being maternal to Chiron at that point. Oh my gosh. When he finally took Chiron home, that's when he met his mom, when he met his mother. And his mom was like, Chiron probably was like 8 or 9 at this point. And, she was working she was a working class mom when he first met him, and was like, you were supposed to come home. Why didn't you come home? And right then and there, you could tell that home wasn't a safe space for him. And he slept all night and was comfortable sleeping at a stranger house than going home. And we fast forward to, it doesn't give you a real good timeline, but it's still during the pivotal of school age of young, Little. And Sharon started noticing his mom started dating, and she started being, at first you see her being tender and attentive to Sharon when she can. But when she started dating, she started becoming a crackhead. And one of the pivotal moments about him being, that she's, was being an addict, the beginning of her being an addict, that she sold, that Juan's people sold to her. And the chapter 1 of Little, was heartbreaking because this movie is sad all the way around. The middle of it was heartbreaking was that Juan saw his mother freebasing in the car. And Paula said, "What you gonna do? You gonna stop trying to be a father to my son? Are you gonna tell your son that you sell me crack? You going to sell?" And then she started smoking it in front of him. Oh shit. Chad, tell me how did that part make you feel? How did that scene make you feel? I'm gonna go back to you and acknowledge everybody in the chat, but I just want to tell me, how did that make you feel of this Blassic? Like, that scene was so hard for me to digest. And let me put a little nugget in there too. Out of all the entire movie, Barry Jenkins said that Naomi Harris had to film all of her scenes within 3 days because it was a visa issue. That part kind of broke my heart because right then and there he had taken a loving and a taking to Sharon, but yet and still his people is over there selling crack to Sharon's mother. That was a hurt piece. Another pivotal moment before I move on to chapter 2 of Sharon's coming of age, as we talk about it, is that Sharon as knew that his mom was changing, knew that his mom was on drugs, but he went to Juan's house. And I remember Juan, prior to all of this, said to him, he said he had a conversation with Sharon and said he was from Cuba and he was black, and people don't realize that a lot of Cubans are black like him. And a Cuban woman called him blue because she said that black boys, under the moonlight, black boys look blue. So that's why they called him blue. And that's where blue came from Juan's name. And being as though that there was a common census that Juan didn't have a father figure in his life. He didn't have an uncle, he didn't have an older cousin or anything. So the most, father figure and, man figure he had was Juan at that point. So I felt like and Juan took a liking to him, and he asked Juan a pivotal question was, what's a maggot with an F? I don't want to say the word because it's very derogatory. And he told him that that's a word that people say to make gay people feel bad about themselves. And he's been called that. He was like 8 or 9. And he said, "Well, how do you know?" And Janelle Monáe, Teresa, said to him, "You don't, baby, you'll know when you know." And Juan reiterated, like, "You don't have to know right now." And I felt like that was a very good pivotal part of, he needed to hear that because, and I think he couldn't like communicate that with his mom because his mom was like, you're a big boy, you can stay home by yourself. And, ooh, child, that was heavy. And the moment that Sharon knew that his mom was doing drugs, he asked Juan, like, "I hate my mother." And Juan said, "I understand. I was your age, and at your age, I did too. But I miss her like crazy right now." And I don't want to go to every breakdown of every scene of this movie, but Juan was a pivotal piece of Sharon's, adolescence years. And he didn't lie to him because he was up 100 with him. And I felt like Teresa gave him some maternal love that his mom couldn't give to him once she became an addict. And it was, man, it was a beautiful scene and sad at the same time because he asked Juan, my mom do drugs, don't she? I know my mom do drugs. And are you a drug dealer? And Juan didn't lie, but Juan saying that to him, that scene looked like to me that it hurt him. That he saw, because I think a lot of dealers, like they do what they do, but they don't see it doesn't affect. They don't see who it affects. And being so that he took a liking and loving to Sharon, that it affected him. Wow, that was crazy. Okay, so teenage Juan, teenage Sharon, at this point, his mom is a full grown. She's doing prostitution. She's, Sharon is still awkward. And it was so funny because when he was little, Sharon did have a friend named Kevin who always asked him, like, why do you let them pick on you? And he said, I don't know. But now again, he's a teenager. This is part two where he's Chiron now. He's no longer little. He's a teenager. He's moving through spaces, and now he have to deal with his mom. Juan is no longer around. Apparently Juan has passed on. It doesn't tell us how Juan passed on, but his mom, child, she is a crackhead, okay? And when I say crackhead, I mean like she probably telling people what her mouth do, showing them what her mouth do, and booty, okay? At this point. So for everybody that's here, welcome to another episode of Blastics, okay? Because we are talking about Moonlight. We are talking about Moonlight. So make sure you put the popcorns in the chat, put the film in the chat, and just let me know as I'm just giving a brief synopsis of it. But you guys have seen it, so I'm not going to go into detail to every scene. But let me tell you about the pivotal scene about Chiron was been when he was little, he asked about the word maggot with an F. And they told him, when you know. But at this point, he's still being bullied. Still still being bullied. Still being called, still being called about that. And him dealing with abuse as a child, as an addictive mother, as by his peers continuously. And at this point, we kind of feel like he kind of know. Because once again, here we go. Kevin comes along and him and Kevin are cool. But Kevin, at this point, Kevin is fluid. Kevin likes girls. He talks about girls all the time. And when he meets up with Chiron, child, him and Chiron sits under the moonlight, under the at the beach. And this is when he have a sexual encounter, him and Kevin. And from then on, I felt like, he knew, but again, Chiron was awkward. And again, this as a teenager, him trying to figure out who he is as an individual. Chiron, if you want to be black, if you want to be Chiron. His mother's addicted and a prostitute. Okay, she is a garden tool at this tune. Okay, really showing people what her mouth do, and dealing with peers, the same peers, and that was just so like heartbreaking because when he was younger, they lived in an apartment, but now they're living in the projects. Everybody knows which, and Naomi, and Teresa, not Teresa, I'm sorry. Paula is giving the performance of her life because she was telling him, like, I need money, I need money. And at this point, even though Juan is no longer around, he still was able to go into a safe space with Teresa. So imagine, him not having a safe space. It was crazy. Hello to everybody in the chat, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Blastics. Please, we're talking about Moonlight, 2016 Academy Award winning show. Screenplay written by Barry Jenkins, based on a semi-autobiography that was unpublished. Black boys look blue under the moonlight. Under the moonlight, black boys look blue. And then we goes to adult Sharon. I know I'm skipping ahead because I'm hoping y'all seen this movie. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just giving you like the remix. My God. So now we see a different, now he's no longer, but once he had this encounter, this is the heartbreaking thing because this goes to show you how, like again, none of these individuals, young men on this movie have shown that they had any father figures or whatever like that. And it does test the testimony of what is, masculinity. You know what I'm saying? Kevin, still like girls, but he still had that sexual encounter with Sharon. He still had a connection with Sharon. And it was sad because when he came to his peers, like how, again, the bullying of his peers made, force Kevin to hurt Sharon and publicly. And once that hurt Sharon, beating on him, and Sharon would not stay down because I think he was like confused, like, damn, we just had a moment, not, 15 years ago. Now, why are you doing this to me? But it was a way of him standing up for himself. And then the next day, he attacked the person that was bullying him. And not more so Kevin, who actually hurt him. And he was sent away to juvie. And then that goes to the segue of him, the next part 3 of it, and that's Black. And now this time, Javante Rose is being is Black Chiron. At this time, he's not skinny. He's very muscular and masculine. And unfortunately, he's trapping. Okay. And the scene that you see adult Chiron, pretty much old school car, like Juan, with the crown on it, like Juan. So you can tell that Juan had some influence on it, and Juan was trapping, and that's what Sharon was doing it. And Sharon went to go see his mother. Now she's no longer an addict. She's a recovering addict, living in the facility, getting clean. And now Sharon, he had a conversation with Kevin when he was, Sharon, part 2 with Kevin when they were teenagers. He said he cried a lot. And Sharon, when he was a little boy, he cried a lot. And this scene with Sharon and his mother, Naomi Harris, like I told y'all, the Good Sis. The Good Sis. Okay, so the Good Sis literally filmed all her scenes in 3 days. Okay. She's older, she's a recovering addict, and she apologized to Sharon because he go visit her at the facility, recovery center. And she apologized to him, and she said, I'm sorry I wasn't the mother and maternal. Lord knows when you needed me to be. I hope you forgive me. And he cried, and he forgave his mom. And at the same time, Kevin reached out to Sharon's mother, and she gave him his number. And Sharon reached out to Kevin. Kevin is in Miami. Sharon is now in, well, Black is living in Atlanta because when he was sent to juvie in Georgia, he stayed there. And he talked about how when they you could tell it was a connection still because when he went to go see Kevin in Florida, Kevin, now working at working at this diner, he gave him the chef special. Like he literally cooked dinner for him and had wine with him and they had a conversation. And that conversation really, I mean, like, cue up the violin strings. Put the violins in the chat. Put the violins in the chat because you know what? Cue up the violin strings because what happened was in that scene was when he told him when he finally they had a conversation at the at the at Kevin's job, and then they went back home to Kevin's house, and Kevin was looking at him like, "So you mean you drove all the way from Georgia to Miami?" And then he said, "I'll make you some tea." And they were in the kitchen, and he told him he was very, very transparent about how he felt, and he said, "No one have ever touched me since that day." I think like 10 years have came by, and then the next scene that you see them as Kevin, as Sharon is resting his head on his shoulder, as Kevin's shoulder, as Kevin embraced him, and I just thought that was a beautiful scene. Okay. This is an ultimate blasting. I'm sorry. This movie, to this day, why I say it ages well, because there are more. Now Barry Jenkins is a straight black man, and a part of it he did say that that you know that he was like telling the story from a straight man's perspective, and I just want to and being a straight woman, but I just felt like the movie wasn't. It just it seemed like everybody have like some other kind of notions like how sexual homosexuality is supposed to be, but these are still humans, and their story, I think this was story was told beautifully and sad at the same time. And what makes me love it is because there are spaces where Juan had gave him an opportunity, but it wasn't enough, you know. And we want, whether it's a male or female, whether they're, that they're homosexual, they still need to have a space to feel safe and to be able to be representative and to feel like feel loved. And their stories need to be told in many different ways instead of stereotypical ways. And I'm so glad that this movie, and you know, I don't have, you know, I haven't birthed anyone that's fluid or sexual, that's homosexual, but I do have an extended son, extended child. But this movie was just so beautiful made. So right now, I just want to go ahead on to move on, and go ahead, and if you have the link to this, if you want to come up, and I just encourage anyone that want to chime in on this beautiful written in the cinematography of this movie. Okay, like Um, if anybody want to come up and chime in on this, I did drop the link in the chat for so we can finish up this Blassic because this movie is so good, okay? And I know I mean like Barry Jenkins is doing his damn thing. But damn, he did the damn thing from my perspective, okay? Um I'm glad that this movie was, this movie was I mean because we have a lot of space if we have different voices to be to be heard. And creatively, I'm glad that this movie was in. So if you want to go ahead and join, I dropped the link in the chat to see if anybody wants to come up and talk about this Blastic with me. And specifically, I want you to tell me, why did you like this movie? Why did you did not like this movie? And did it age well? And do you feel like it's a Blastic to you? Because this movie, I feel like is a phenomenal movie, and that's one of the reasons why I put it because the movie came out in 2016. It's 2022, and it's ages well. We still haven't seen any really good stories to this movie. And this movie was really, really powerful. So, like I said, I had dropped the link. Okay. Is another reason. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna go ahead and before anybody comes up, I want to acknowledge some people that is in the chat. Hello. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. She put the popcorns in the chat because it was a great cinema. Yes, yes, yes. A period. Okay, to the fan red label. Um I did see a few that was saying that the movie was powerful. It really was. I love you too, Levance. I love you too. Yes, that's right. Because this movie was powerful. Like that really ring on my heartstrings. Yes, Mark to see. That's so yes, it was. Yes, he was good. All that good food in the dark. I felt okay, right. It wasn't even no lights on. Okay, he was like, "Come on now, I done gave you the chef special," and Chiron was, Black was like, "I don't really, drink or, because I can't really taste it." And it was crazy because, Kevin, I felt bad for them too because it was like Kevin trying to, keep up with his peers because he had a reputation, like being tough. Nobody really fucked with Kevin. And then it wasn't even not too long ago that Kevin and Chiron, Chiron had that moment at the beach. And then, what I mean, he kicked his ass. Like he beat his ass. Like he beat him up. Like, why you doing do that to Chiron? Like, you know what I mean? Somebody said the link ain't working. Okay, so let me go ahead and copy this link again and put the link in. All right, tell me if that link work. Let me see if that link work. Nobody's backstage. Tell me if that link work, okay? Because we know if that link work. So let me know if that link is working. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. What I man, what I man, what I man, what I man. So that link should work. All right, so let me know because no one is backstage. Oh yeah. So see if this link work. Okay.
Lavon Giddens joined. Cat joined.
Hi. So it's working now. Okay.
It is working. Yes.
Joined.
Oh,
Hi.
hey, Kat.
Hey, hey.
Family's here. Everybody's
What's up,
y'all?
Long time no talk, guys.
What's going on? I know, right?
Yeah.
Let me just pull up this video somewhere else, and then I can mute it so that I can also mod. Okay. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great.
What's up, yo?
Hey, so did y'all go? Yes. All right. So
It's a party.
it is a party. Okay, I'm juicy right now, but I think I made it through on my episode of Blassic. This movie is amazing,
It is.
and I want So I'm glad you guys are here. Yes, the gang is in the house. That's the yes.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, yes, it is. So, tell me what how many popcorns out of 4 do you give this movie and why? And I would like you to tell me how did this movie affect you and what was some of your favorite parts? What was a favorite part of your movie? And how did it move you or how did it didn't move you or what you didn't like if you didn't like anything about the movie? And do you agree with me of this being
baby, that's a lot. I've been drinking. You trying to make me answer a whole
Me too. Me too.
A lot of questions rolled up in one.
But roll it up in one. Like, all right.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead. Let me because since we can't multitask, because of Q, okay, red label. Here's a red label. But
Look at you, cute.
yes, red label. So we'll go with Levon say.
Yes.
How many out of 4 bags of popcorns? How many popcorns do you give this movie, and why? And why?
I give it 4 popcorns, and the reason why I give it 4 popcorns is because I feel like this movie is the most, in my opinion, from what I've seen, the most important Black gay movie that was out there, even gay movie. I mean, I watched Brokeback Mountain. I know a lot of people, it won all these awards. Everybody thought Brokeback Mountain was so great. I hated Brokeback Mountain. I thought it was horrible. This was more of a real depiction of what happens. As I said in the chat, I have a similar experience. No, my mom wasn't a hoe or a drug addict, but my mom did have me at 16. So she had me very young, and the movie really hit home to me. We weren't in the projects, but we were close to the projects. So I saw the ghetto-ness and the drug dealers. It all hit home to me. I'm from New York. I'm from Brooklyn, so all that stuff really hit home to me, and it seemed real. So I think it was really good writing. So I give it 4 popcorns. Way better than Brokeback Mountain, which was just like random cowboys and come on, that's no That's not romantic or real.
I never saw Brokeback Mountain.
Don't waste your time. It was horrible. Like it
Yeah,
was
don't
dumb.
waste your time. Yeah,
It was
yeah, it was
dumb.
trash.
It was thank you. It was trash.
It was. It was. It was. And everything, every love story, or even I won't even say this definitely was a coming of age film, and it was not every love story or coming of age story is a happy story.
Mm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it shows you the struggles too of this young man. Rather, we see a lot of struggles like, you know, somebody being bullied and picked on, but it was so crazy early on. The whole, like, almost through this whole movie, like Sean Ryan was, you know, was sad and gloomy during this whole, and him trying to figure out who he was, accept who he was, and the abuse from, because even, and I'm gonna say abuse even from Kevin, you know, and sadly Kevin, you know, it looked like it hurted him to hurt him, but he did it anyway, you know. So yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead
Well,
to
you
so
do.
let me
Sorry.
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Levon.
Well, I want to say, like, from my experience, not only from my experience, but what I've witnessed is what Rihanna says is true. For a lot of people, gay people, you do find love in a broken place. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that's what the movie was
Come
basically
on,
saying.
song lyrics.
He found love in a broken place. It's like,
Hey.
and that's what happens a lot. You know, a lot of people, I feel like. So I related it. I related to it so much. Like I thought it was a very powerful movie.
It was, yes. All right, we have Cat in the chat here. Cat in the chat.
Hey y'all. So I definitely give this movie 4 popcorns out of 4. I avoided this movie
Your
for a long
audio
time
breaking.
because I thought it would be too
You're a little
sad or
robotic.
something.
You're a little robot-y.
Oh, I am?
You're a little robotic, yeah.
Okay, let me come back.
Okay. I'm gonna go to Q and I'm gonna come back to you.
All right.
All right. Hey, oh, spotlight on me. Hey. I think it shows a depiction of a story that needed to be told by people who look like us.
Mm-hmm.
I
How
mean,
many
in
popcorns
Hollywood,
you give it though?
I'm giving it 4. Giving it
Nice.
4.
Okay, good.
Because we always see and hear the narrative and the story being told by the other white people and things of that nature, and so and for it to be a Hollywood movie, to get the acclaim that it got, it really shined a spotlight on situations that people are actually dealing with within the community. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
nice to have that representation for people who can relate to the story that is not of the fair skin background.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
So I'm giving it 4
There you
popcorns.
go.
Pop, 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 pop.
So yes, yeah. At the beginning of it, I did give it a 4 because, like I said, because I love the story that was being told. Because and I'm glad that it was told by us. And yes, and if we're going to compare it to Brokeback Mountain, I think, you know, that was like mediocrity. You know, like this man. I mean, it was nothing touching or tender or real about Brokeback Mountain, and to me. And I'm sorry, I am a straight woman and stuff like that.
Right.
Coming from a straight woman, but I'm just saying, like, and I don't, you know, live, you know, or be in spaces of gays, you know, most of my life. But at the end of the day, I'm like,
That's what, and popcorn. We see each other. That was my whole problem with the movie. Because when I
I'll
watched
never
the movie,
quit you.
my problem with the movie, I was like, this is for me, doesn't sound like a gay love story. This sounds like a story of infidelity. Like I was like, this guy is
right,
cheating on his wife, and I don't care if it's with a man or a woman, he's cheating on his wife. She's mad. She has a right to be upset. This doesn't sound romantic and cute to me. Like, y'all can, if y'all want to go off to the mountains and do what you want to do, then just do that. Why
Right,
why are
because
you inviting everybody
right,
else?
because it did the thing about it that, and then it wasn't even like, in Jake Gyllenhaal, he became a hoe. He was going to
Right?
Mexico just to be a hoe. It wasn't nothing like,
Have
okay,
the romantic, sweet.
nothing, right, nothing just like, all right, I'm gonna just be a hoe and that's it. Nothing of the fact that, all right, well, I'm gonna live in my truth and be with somebody I really do care about. You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
My
that
issue with the
was
movie was the
trash.
infidelity because they could have the writers could have chosen to have them be honest with their wives, but the writers chose to have them both lie to their wives. So that who was the victim in the situation? It's the wives who were sitting there taking care of the kids, who didn't know what was going on, and then here you are. I'm going fishing, and then where would you really out here with another man? That's not romantic, and
Right.
I don't think that's a good story. You know what I mean? Like
Right, exactly. And
it's
and that's what I'm saying. So yeah. All right. So go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and there you
Do
go.
I sound okay?
Yes.
yes.
Yes, you do.
Okay. So I was saying I definitely give this movie a 4 out of 4 popcorns. I avoided this movie for a while because I thought it would be too sad to watch, and I've been trying to protect my mental energy, my mental health. But it was a really good movie. I'm glad I watched it. Um, I think the parts that impacted me the most were, I think you talked about it, Popcorn. The first part was the one where Blue realized that he would kind of had a direct impact on Little's life, but because he was a drug dealer, and his mom
Mhm.
was heavy on the drugs. So when he
Mhm.
realized that,
Crackhead.
huh?
I said a
He said
full-fledged crackhead.
Excuse me, sir.
A
Let
full-fledged
her.
crackhead.
Okay, sir. Okay.
um,
Avatar man.
right. Okay. So when he realized that he kind of had a part to play in that, you could tell that it like kind of
Mm.
tore him up. Like it's like it was a reality check for him in a way.
Mm.
And then the other part was when, the peer pressure of Kevin having to hurt Chiron,
Mhm.
beating him up
Mhm.
in the
Oh my gosh,
Mm.
playground or whatever that
that was
was.
so epic. Yeah.
Um, I thought that spoke a lot about, peer pressure, and, how sometimes pleasing your peers is more important than actually standing up for a friend, or so it seems. What is
Mhm.
Popcorn doing?
Oh no.
I was just
Hey.
trying to get people reactions. That's all. That's all. That's all.
Yes.
That's what you
And
say.
yeah, but I thought this movie was so good. I thought the storytelling was so simple. It
Mhm.
it told the best story with like the least amount of words, and I love
Mm.
stories like that.
Yes.
So I really loved it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Glad I watched it. Mhm.
I'm glad you did too. I'm glad that y'all went on ahead with my recommendations and
Yeah.
watched it. Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm glad. Um I watched it with my daughters. They loved it too.
Mhm.
Um I'm sorry.
Uh, uh, it's your show. I just wanted to have a question. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so I watched it with my daughters too. Because even though one is a little bit more analytical and the other one is an artist, um they both really enjoyed the movie. And of course my daughter, from an artist perspective, loved the cinematography, the storytelling, like like dived in the more analytical one, just took on the storytelling as itself, and not every love story or coming of age story, like I said, is a happy story. And this is just one of many stories. And Levon, as a gay man,
Mhm.
how do you? I'm glad that you had actually put up that you give it for that it was good, because Barry Jenkins is a straight man. And that was
Okay.
just one of his things, that he actually wrote the screenplay, not the actual, the actual semi-autobiography.
Mhm.
But and then he executed, and I think that was one of his things, like, okay, can I tell this story responsibly and put it up as a way, and show the humanity of it, shows the struggles of it, show that okay, the poor, but still
Hmm.
tell it in a beautiful way and have representations. So 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 as me telling you that he was a straight man, you did give it forward. You liked how he executed the story. He
Yeah.
actually tapped into a lot of things that
To be honest, I had no idea that it was a straight man who wrote this. I assumed it was a gay man, because it
right.
was
It was
so.
a gay man semi-autobiography, but he actually wrote the screenplay and he directed it. So it was actually his direction, to bring it to screen. And I just wanted to see. I'm just asking you, did he, and coming from with you saying that you gave it 4 popcorns
Yeah,
out of 4, that he actually told the story in a way that that were responsible to the
absolutely.
community.
I,
Yes.
I don't feel like he was disrespectful at all. I feel like it
Mhm,
was very, very, very real. It hit
mhm.
me on a lot of points. Being black, being gay, being from Brooklyn, like it hit me on a lot of points, and I felt like it was a very truthful story told. Um, and the way that it was written was something like, I feel like it was written in a way that normally movies or even books are not written. This story did not have a happy ending. It sort of didn't even have an ending. You know,
Right. That was the thing.
yeah,
Because even though that last scene of that tender moment that him, Sharon, and Kevin, but it was the fact that I was so it was crazy because if you notice, okay, so Sharon, as a teen when he was Sharon, and as a
I'm so
teenager,
bad with names. Sharon is the main character,
yeah,
or the
Sharon is the
boyfriend.
main character.
Okay.
When he was a little boy, he was referred to as little because he was
Mhm.
littler than all his peers. And then he was called Chiron, and then he was called Black as an adult because
Yeah,
Kevin gave him that name. Kevin gave him that nickname, Black. Um, and it was so crazy because Chiron, oh my gosh, you know, um, just all right. So you couldn't pay me to be a teenager anymore. To go back in those days, okay, it was already hard as enough, and him dealing with not only him dealing with who Chiron is as an individual, but his mom was his mom was an addict, and at this point she probably, she spread her eagle on, you know what I mean, for some crack rock,
hmm,
and then he's being tormented by his peers, and then he's going to, um, you know, and then he's trying to navigate life and try to figure out who he is because don't forget in one of the scenes when he was asleep he had a wet dream and it was about
yeah,
Kevin. And then as an adult, when Kevin called him and reached out to him, as an adult, when he woke up the next day after that phone call, he had another wet dream. And that's what made
happens.
one of the reasons why. But like that intimacy level that goes to show, like, but he wasn't out here, he wasn't coming out here like being on the DL, frauding anyone, because he was very honest and transparent. Like he was the only person that touched him. Wow. All those years later.
Well, I've always felt like sexuality is very fluid, and this movie sort of proved that.
It does.
Or
And it also tests the testaments of masculinity too.
Yeah.
Because if you see, if you see in the spaces of how Chiron and Kevin are, Kevin still had a baby. Kevin still was
yeah,
messing with women.
Yeah.
But I
and
feel like, and I feel like Kevin when it was in the space that, he gonna do what he do and he gonna like what he like as well.
and I feel like it sort of opened the door because, like, I do believe, this could be controversial to some people, but I do believe that straight men can even have sex with a gay man and still be straight. Same with straight women who might make out or have sex with a woman, but then she's still straight. That's possible. And I feel like this movie sort of like opened the door to like, listen, e- we're all human beings. And
Mhm.
sometimes things happen, like,
Yeah, it kind of speaks to the fluidity
yeah,
of sexuality and,
Right.
like things happen
how
Because
sometimes.
everything
right,
doesn't
because
fit in a
Kevin still was doing
box.
his thing, had a baby and everything,
Right. Yeah.
And I've had similar experiences where I've, gosh, now I'm telling all my business, but like I've had guys tell me like, I'm not attracted to men, but Levon, I like you.
Mm.
Levon, you
I've
can
heard
do
that
it.
before, and then how do I take that? I don't take it, to be honest, because I'm like, no, I don't want that. I'm not training nobody. But like I've heard that before, and this movie sort of spoke to that, where some people, it's can be an individual thing, where it's like you may not consider yourself gay, but this
Right.
person's hot to me, and I just maybe have an emotional connection with them, and I like them so much that
Mhm.
maybe something could happen when the fires burn and the moonlight is up and
Right.
when
Right.
nobody's looking and
Hey, DR.
something could happen. But that
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that I consider that person like gay or even bi. I mean, I feel like sexuality is just fluid in general.
And right, and that clearly showed in this, this portrayed in this movie as well, especially when it comes to hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for being here as we talk about the 2016 Academy Award winning film by Barry Jenkins, Moonlight. Um
Great movie.
it was a great movie, in my opinion. And everybody on my panel actually said that they give it four popcorns out of four popcorns.
Loved it.
I didn't see anyone in the chat that actually said it was fugazi. So thank you. I mean, up to your opinion. So I'm glad that Kat did touch on one of the scenes that was kind of pivotal to her. So anybody else on the panel that had an impact on a scene, whether he was little, Sharon, or black?
There's been a few scenes that
Okay.
hit me, but I think one that was most important. Oh gosh, you're putting me on. Okay, hi everybody. I think one of the biggest scenes that I think that was the most important, or the most, I guess, scary to me, was when he had that fight. You guys remember what I'm talking about?
With Kevin?
No, when we hit the guy with the chair.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
That really affected me because I'm just gonna be honest. I am a little small black gay guy in elementary school in Brooklyn, so I did have a lot of challenges. And my
Oh,
mom is small, light skin as well. And the way she always like trained me is what she said. She was like, if you're getting attacked, you're smaller, it's fair for you to use a weapon. So I've hit people with chairs before. I've hit people with
oh,
textbooks before. When people picked on me, like I've been in school where like people would throw paper at me, and I would just follow back with a whole textbook. I would just throw a whole history textbook. You hit me with a piece of paper, I'm
right.
throwing the history textbook back, or I'm throwing a chair. And my mom told me to do that. So when I saw this movie and then saw that the hits consequences for it, I was like, that could have been me. Like I hit
Mm.
people with chairs before too. Like I've stood up for myself before because I was picked on as well.
Yeah.
That
So,
could have been me.
and it was crazy because Sharon has been, from little to Sharon has been being
Hey,
bullied by
Sonia.
his peers. Thanks for joining us, Odette.
Hey,
Um,
Deb.
Hey.
he's been tormented and tormented, and it was crazy because we don't know what happens to his bully, but we know that being as though that he was bullied and he finally fought back and fucked him up with that chair, as they got. I mean, he was sent away. And
Yeah.
that was the end of the Chiron, like he was sent away, and that's when he went to Georgia. But that
I believe.
moment when Kevin beat him in front of the peers,
Mm.
you saw there was when he wouldn't stay down, there was a switch that went off on him. Like
Yeah.
just like when he saw his mom was like that moment when his mom came out, as the Naomi Harris came out and was like looking disheveled and like Shara. And it was like he looked at his mom differently because he saw her probably no longer as my mom, probably more so as an addict. And I felt like that was a switch that went off on him with his dynamic with his mother. It's just like it was a switch that went off with him with his that he's not going to let nobody hurt him anymore. After
That's
that,
exactly what my mom said. My mom said, Lamont, you're smaller. If you're gonna get beat up, it's fair for you to pick up a chair or something. She said, she said the teachers are not gonna help you. Because when in Brooklyn, they get mad and kids get crazy. She said defend yourself any way that you could. So I've hit people with chairs before, and I've hit people with textbooks before. In not in my adult life. I'm not. I'm not crazy when I was a kid. But like when I was bullied, yeah, I would be like, oh, really? Whap, and I'll pick up a chair and do it because my mom told me that it was all right. And when I saw that movie and then he got put away, I was like, holy crap, I could have gotten put away because I've hit people. It's been more than once. And I'm like, okay, that could have been me. It scared me. You know what I mean? Like me in jail. I've been to jail one time. It was so dirty and gross. I couldn't handle it. So like, I wouldn't do it again.
Well, thank you for joining me. I'm so debonair. All right, so
Hey, so Deb.
yes. All right. So I did ask everyone out of 4 popcorns, how many popcorns do you give this this movie? And answer that. I'm gonna go ahead and give it and tell me why. So go ahead.
I'll definitely give it a 4. Honestly, I think that a lot of this movie describes what it's like before a person comes out. I think that the story doesn't show what television shows when it comes to gay men. It shows what it looks like before you actually come out. Even if you never do, it's just that a lot of us have experienced. The experience of, I've had a friend that I've dealt with, but we never really had this conversation. And it was when I first watched it, I thought like, oh, we're going to see this gay life story, but really it wasn't that. It was really like this,
coming of age story.
yeah, coming of age story. Yes. Where these men may have dealt with each other, maybe, and they didn't know what to do with it. And I think as a young person, trying to figure out what it's like or what this is, that was the perfect storyline because a lot of us have been in that place.
And you know what? Just like I said, great insight. Thank you for that. I was thinking about it was a consensus that in the story, I mean, in what we reviewed, we don't know what was chopped out, but not, Juan never talked about a father. Marshall Ali, he never talked about a father figure. Sharon's father wasn't around, and Kevin never talked about a father. So these young men, it was crazy that how they tapped into the idea of masculinity, and the lack of the father in there of how do they navigate through that space and growing up and having anybody pivotal in their life to emulate. I think a part of it was assumed or whatever. Even his peers that was messing with him as a teenager, you didn't see any fathers around because the only father figure was Juan. And Juan wasn't around very long, but probably enough, but not very long. So me seeing that as a consistency between Kevin and Chiron, and even some of his peers, you don't really see a father figure. Do you think that maybe Kevin or maybe his peers probably would have handled things differently. If they had a male figure in their life, if they wouldn't picked on Chiron as much.
Yes, to me that.
Yeah. Or
Who
Jude
first?
and
Who
Levon.
first?
I
Yeah.
don't, I
Yeah.
don't, I
Yeah.
don't, I don't, I don't think there's a difference in any of that. My dad has been in my life my entire life. He has. Now my dad went through a struggle with drugs, but I also went to programs with other men who
Mhm.
were my mentors. So I never had a lack of missing like a male figure in my life. That
Mhm.
didn't change the fact of my sexuality or anything like that.
Right. Right.
What it made
I
me
didn't
want
think
to
that. I don't think I meant. I'm sorry if I meant that if it would have
okay.
changed your sexuality. I think it would have been in a way of how he would have navigated a little bit more, like me in a more safer space because I felt like the moments that he did have with Juan helped
Mhm.
him a little bit in his space because he had a male figure, a small part, like when he asked him what was a maggot with an F. And
I think there are a lot of single mothers who teach their sons how to be good men and
okay.
teach them how to be men because they have to. They don't have a choice to do that. The
Mhm.
lack of a father to me, and this is my own personal opinion, I don't
Mhm.
think that changes anything. Who you going to be is who
Mhm.
you want to be. I think that there are a lot of women who need to be celebrated as to that raised up great men. Um, we are not privileged to have a good father around. We're
Mhm.
not all privileged to even have a decent father around. What we
Mhm.
are, what we are able to have is a decent parent that's around.
Mhm.
And as long as they're able to teach you how to be a decent person, I think that's all that you need. Who
Mhm.
you are outside of that, that's this who you are.
Mhm. Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us today up in there. Um,
Yes.
I think that was powerful. But my experience is different than yours. My
Okay.
father was not around. My mom had me at 16 years old, and then my father ended up passing away when I think I was 18 or 19.
Mhm.
And he and I never got along. And the reason why we never got along was because I always held him accountable, and he was just a trash person. So my mother and my father. So for Mother's Day, she got a gift for Mother's Day, and then she also got a gift for Father's Day because she was both for me.
Mhm.
And she raised all three of her children through college. None of us have any problems, and I think that we're all great people. And she did it all by herself and started at 16 years old. I couldn't imagine having a kid that young. You know,
Mm. Yes.
my mom did it, and she put me through college. She made me the writer who I am. I'm here in LA right now. You know, I think I'm successful. She's the one who did that for me, and she did it at 16. And so I didn't need a male figure in my life. I did have my grandfather,
Mhm.
but he wasn't like a like a father figure. It was my mom was my mom was my father figure, and I didn't need my father to come in. And then
Mhm.
when after he passed, it didn't affect me at all, and that's sad for him, not for me.
Right. Thank you. You
Um,
think that's for sharing that.
Well, since we're on the whole family topic and
Come
parents
on,
and shit,
Q.
my parents ain't raised me. They depended on somebody else because they had already raised their children, and I was the last. So, uh, I got no time. So it is what it is, and if she sees it, and if he sees it, they know. They allowed other people to raise me because they were too busy doing their own thing. So, still love them.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
say
when
this.
I
Oh,
was,
I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. So when I segue into saying them not having a male figure, I wanted to be specific on why how he was able to communicate with Juan and ask him some questions, and that's why I was talking about maybe if Kevin had a Juan in his life, maybe he probably would have been able to move differently and not try to hurt Chiron and that one action, maybe he would have been able to do something differently. But then again, teenagers, it's hard as hell being a damn teenager. That
It's a
shit hurt.
pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, damn, that shit was hard to watch. Okay. Right. That part was definitely hard to watch, no matter what. Like someone that you care about, that you opened up with, that you had a experience with, and then turn on you. But that was damn, that was so another scene. Is there any other scene in that movie that also kind of like hit home for you in the space? One is for me is and then I'll move it on to each and every one, was Teresa. Teresa was able to be, and it looks like Teresa never had any children. So it was like she was the extended maternal mother to Chiron. And a part of it, the addict mother, you know, didn't like that, but a part of it is because she knew that she was lacking not being a mother to him. When she was an addict, was like, you're my child, and you need to tell that because that was her own guilt, knowing that she was an addict and not doing what she needed to do with Chiron, but knowing that he can always go to Teresa, played by Janelle Monáe, to be there, to be that comfort, to be that maternal parent for you. I'm sorry, let me drink some water. How do you guys felt about Teresa's character? And I'm gonna go with Kat first.
No,
Mm-mm.
we can't hear you, girl. You look pretty though.
Okay,
Oh, no, she's gone.
so we're not gonna go with Kat. We're gonna go with Red Label.
Let's go with Red Label.
Oh, hey. I think that her, I mean, she was very maternal for not having children, so she provided that safe space, for him, and just by her saying what he had to do with or deal with for or who he had as a mother was a more reason for her to pour into him because what he was not getting at home, she was able to give it to him. And I think just having that support and having that support system when you can't get it from home and you know that you have someone else that you can get it to from a third party, um, I think it helped shape him and his character because I mean I think he put his mom on the back burner after she became um, the addict, and so that love was lost really, and he just saw her as everyone else out on the street. Duh.
I can hear you, popcorn.
Okay.
Do I sound weird, y'all?
A little
Okay,
bit.
I'm going.
Yeah.
A little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
All right.
So while you get that together, I'm gonna go to Sodab.
What was,
Yes.
Somebody's getting fired.
what was the
Hey,
question?
hey.
So, how do you feel about Teresa? Being Teresa's character, Teresa Janelle Monáe's character being maternal towards Chiron.
I think that's a very important character. I think that in any type of space where there's a kid who doesn't have a parental person, that they can find that with someone else is an amazing thing. For me, I found it in my mentors. They took me. That's the reason why I went to college, because my mom was around, but trying to be a man and then also knowing about my sexuality was very different for me. The guys that were my mentors showed me a different type of world that I would never expect that I could even have. They're the reason why I went to college. And they, like, one of my mentors actually still lives here and actually moved to Atlanta. We still talk to this very day. So I think that that character was very important, and I think that it shows that I don't. And the thing is, I don't see that kids have this today as being
Mhm.
a substitute teacher walking around kids. They don't have that, and I think that when I'm in my classrooms, when I'm seeing my students, like I want to be that person that was there for me that they don't have, because there's a lot of kids who just don't. I don't know if they even do mentor programs now,
Mm.
but my mentors were like my family for me. They were like my extended father that was absent because he was on drugs for me when I was growing up.
Mm.
That character resonated with me a lot because I don't know if I'll be the person that I am today if I didn't have her in my life.
Mm. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your input. So I want to move on from another character that was okay. Okay, Sharon, of course, all three stages of Sharon, okay?
Mhm.
And you know, the woman in me definitely was lusting over Black, of course, but Devontae Rose. And but I'm gonna go with Juan, aka Blue, Marshall Ali, when he was connecting and being a little bit, allowing himself to be a little bit more open with young Sharon, of course. Um, when he took him swimming, and then
Mm-hmm.
that scene of him of trust. I felt like that was this of scene of him allowing Sharon allowing himself to trust Blue. Did that scene move you in any way or not?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that I don't want to speak for Soda there, but like, don't we have the same? Oh wait, you want me to be on camera? um, no, I've been very similar experiences where I've met men who were, I guess, I don't want to say questioning, but fluid.
Mhm.
Who may not want to claim any sort of sexuality, but are interested. And when it comes, what I feel about this movie is that it told the black gay story, and I
Mhm.
feel like the black gay story is very different from the white gay story.
Absolutely.
And thank you, so debonair. Right, it's two totally different stories. And there's a lot of racism in the gay community. If you go on these apps, people will straight up say, no Asians, no blacks, no fats. Like
No
they'll
fam.
just sit up there and just be so rude about it and like whatever. So there's a lot of racism and there's a lot of like aggression, like even in our own community.
Mhm.
And I feel like this was the first movie that highlighted our struggles and some of the things that we go through and that it happens. Because Brokeback Mountain did
That was my
nothing for the
story.
gay community. Did nothing for the gay community, in my opinion. It,
I
it
wish
was
I know how to quit you. How about just accept? I guess. Well, how about you just accept who you are?
and move on. Like
Absolutely.
it,
So,
what
This
all right.
reminded me of the story
Mountain
because I
said.
haven't watched the movie in a very long time.
Which one?
I remember the base of the story, so I'm remembering things that you guys are saying now. So
Oh,
Uh,
Moonlight. Okay, yeah. So,
Moonlight. Oh yeah.
Joe. So another part that all right, we're gonna go with Black. After it was crazy because obviously Kevin. When Kevin reached out to get Black's number from his mother, because at this point, with Black as an adult now, mom is in rehab, um, in recovery, and she said, "You know what? I'm gonna stay in this facility and help other people like me." But she apologized to him, and I remember early on as a teenager, Sharon told Kevin like he cried so much. He like, I cry all the time. I'm a crier,
mhm.
and that was one of the scenes that he allowed himself to be open and vulnerable to Kevin. And then as an adult, we see him cry
Mhm.
when his mom apologized to him and like asked her for forgiveness because a part of that's the recovery, you know. Um, That was a part of recovery
Mhm.
as well. And uh that scene with his mom apologizing,
Yeah,
That's
that was heavy.
huge.
it was deep.
That's
Yes,
huge.
that was huge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you won't get that. You won't get an apology from your hurts,
Mhm.
from when somebody hurt you. And even she apologized. She was like, and Teresa was there for you, even though
You.
saying she was saying that Teresa was a mother to you when Lord knows when I needed to be when I wasn't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So she helps. And a lot of times, as an addict, you know, I'm not an addict, but I'm just saying, like family members and going to therapy and stuff like that, you know,
Good night,
their
mystery.
addiction is their addiction. Like, so after a while it has nothing to do with who they hurt because they're
Right.
chasing their addiction, right? But she still apologized to her son and acknowledged that Teresa until that day, he still communicated and had a relationship because she was like, "You talked to Teresa?" He said, "Yes." He still
Yeah.
talked to her. So even though he didn't have his maternal mother as a voice, he still had Teresa, and I thought that was beautiful. So
Well,
before,
I can give you an example of this. So me and my dad, we never really had a relationship growing up.
Mhm.
All my friends and my cousins, they thought my dad was the greatest thing in the world. I hated
Hmm.
him. I did not like
Really?
him because
Why?
he was so mean to me, and I thought a lot of it was because he just figured he thought that I was gay, and honestly, I didn't even know if I was or I wasn't.
All
I
right.
didn't know what
So
gay
does
was.
that. Can I pause you and ask you a question?
Mhm.
Do you feel like that some that your family members and maybe everybody knew before you knew? Because
Oh,
that's how I felt.
they all knew.
Okay, so they
Yeah,
they knew before you knew. Okay,
yeah. But I mean,
sorry.
for me to identify myself as that, I as a kid did not know that.
Me
And
either.
so them asking me those type of questions, I'm like, I've never even had any kind of sexual intercourse or anything like that. I don't know. I just know that I do. My attraction is to guys, but I never even expressed it to anybody. So that was never something I even expressed to anybody. But my dad, he just had a little bit of more spice to his relationship with me, and I just
Hmm.
did not know how to deal with him. And then he was on drugs as well.
Mm,
And there was times where it was just like my dad would like we got into like fights, like physical fights. Like he would push
Hmm.
me downstairs. One time he grabbed me because he thought out on his shirt. He grabbed me by the collar and dragged me down some steps. And I didn't know why. Like, I didn't really get it until I became like an older person. And I realized people kept calling me gay all the time because as a young person, I was extremely feminine. Like it
mhm,
was extremely feminine. Um, and I didn't know what gay was.
Right.
Even though I knew I had an attraction to boys, gay was not a word that resonated with how I felt or whatever. And
mhm, mhm,
so, growing up, I didn't understand why he was treating me the way he was treating me. But when I got into like high school, going into college, I realized that this is a taboo for Black people, and
It is.
I don't even now make me fearful to have this conversation with you because I know you're treating me this way because of this. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Uh,
mhm, mhm,
but I know you're treating me this way because of this. And
mhm,
so, um, on top of the fact that you're on drugs and, mentally you're not stable to even have a conversation with. So I compartmentalize my feelings and my communication with my dad because I don't feel like I ever had a relationship with him.
mhm.
The crazy part is that when I did come out, he was the first person to say that you're my son and I love you.
Aw. Well,
And I never
that's
like I
good.
should have came out a long time ago because I would have got this relationship for you a long time ago. But I think the
That's good.
reason why we had that relationship and that conversation was because I knew that he was on his journey of not being on drugs anymore.
Okay. Mm, mm.
So,
Wow,
did you
thank you
come
for
out to your
sharing that.
family? Or did your family already like? Uh, did you come out to them, or was it
I accidentally came out to them.
okay?
Yeah,
Mm,
I posted something
How
on
was
Facebook.
Okay.
how does one accidentally do that?
Uh-huh.
So, when they were started integrating social media with cell phones, we had
Uh,
me and my ex had Blackberries, and I
mhm,
was in Atlanta. We were on this date in the park, And I thought I was texting him a picture of him at the park saying my husband, but I posted it on Facebook. And my ex-girlfriend seen it.
Uh,
And
you
I
had
deleted
girlfriends?
it like immediately after I posted it because I'm like, okay, I didn't mean to
I
post that
got
on here.
hacked. I got
But by the
hacked.
time, listen, this was like in like 3 seconds. She got the information, and she lived in Cincinnati. I lived in my family lived in Columbus. It's like a 2 hour drive, like an hour and a half drive. She
Mm-hmm.
all of them. She drove to Columbus to talk to my mom, and she cried and everything else. So she actually told my family about me being gay.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Mm.
I mean,
I'm wearing my
uh,
I'm wearing my mask.
yeah, I know why you're
Because
wearing a mask when you're home alone.
because between Deb and Pop Coffin, they might be carrying a new cyber variant of cousin Corona.
Mhm. And meanwhile, your dog is sneezing in the background.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. You need to
Well,
be
not
worried
all
about
dogs.
nephew. You need to be worried about nephew. Come on, us.
You over there wearing a mask in your own house by your damn self. I
There's a whole lot of coughing going on.
Yeah.
I didn't come out the closet as well.
Okay.
My mom, I like to say that she kicked me out the closet.
Mm.
Because I always considered myself a late bloomer. I was not interested in sex. I was not interested in anything in high school besides Pokemon cards. I literally came home and there was a note on my bed, and it was from my mom, and she said, "Levon, I know you're gay, bi, or whatever. Just come talk to me." And I read the note, and I was like, "I'm not gay, bi, or whatever. I just like Pokemon." Like I didn't think anything. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then it wasn't until a year later where I was like, "Okay, all right, fine." Like because with me in particular, I thought I was asexual for my entire life. Like, I didn't think I was interested in men or women. That's just how I felt. But that's not the case. As I get older, now
You were like, that's not the case at this point.
I
It was
got a
good.
taste of something, and I'm like, okay, no, I like that.
Well, you know what? So one of the, like I said, one of the main reasons I love this movie. It was not a go to initially, like like a movie like, oh, I'm gonna run to the theaters and see it, whatever like that. But as people were talking about it and talking about how it was a story, because if I wanted to see that, I really wanted it to do some justice. I didn't want it to be stereotypical, you know. I wanted to be, but I did go ahead and go see it. And when I saw it, like I said, that makes it a Blastic to me. Number one, it's black. Number one, is starring black. Number one is written by black
Mhm.
and directed by black. And this movie still is very relevant and still be told. And the way I felt about watching it the first time, I still get that same feeling this
Mhm.
time. Like again, the cinematography was top
Mhm.
tier.
Yeah.
Cinematography
Shades
was
of dark.
top tier. The
But
acting was top tier.
absolutely.
So I'm sorry. Like so
I
that
was
was
gonna, I, yeah, I was gonna say this. I think even as a gay black man, like this story is a story that is never told. When it comes to these type of gay black men, we see the flamboyant man. We see the story where they end up together. We see the story where they're on the reality shows and they're the fashion stylists. So we see these stories, but this story was a very different type of story that a lot of us have experienced, and we all like. This is a very normal story,
Exactly. I was
right.
gonna
and we never
Right.
see this
And that's
story.
where I was talking about where they
It's-
pushes the what masculinity is.
yeah.
so
Because they
again,
always think
it's all right.
where
No, so,
masculine
yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, what masculinity is, because
Yeah.
you see two individual black beautiful men who
Mhm.
loving on each other, and it was crazy because it was funny because when Kevin looked at Black as an adult, was like, when okay, you look
What
like
that
you
meant
ain't
to you.
no Mills. He was like, after that day, after I got sent away, I didn't want nobody to fuck with me no more. So I put my weight on. You know what I'm saying? And but like I said, it was normal. And just to go to, the body roll off of what So Debs has said, it was just normal. Because
Mhm.
what they're giving right now is stereotypical that all black men or all gay men are flamboyant, or
Yeah.
all gay men, quote unquote, are not as masculine.
And
When it's
hoes
not,
and all this stuff. Yeah.
and that's not the case. And it's not always about, it was always in, and you see a struggle. Like, people don't feel or realize there is a struggle when you're young like that, trying to be in these spaces, and then you don't have anyone to confide in or to navigate or help you to accept you, because he still was still starting to search. And then it was so crazy because the very thing that he hated about his mother, he did the same thing as Juan did. He started trapping.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
And
It's real.
it's right, very real. You know,
Yeah.
and look, even Kevin said he went to jail, but when he came out, he was like, "Look, I'm just here trying to make $1, trying to take care of my son and live. I don't want to, I don't want to go back to jail."
Yeah.
But
As Sabrina said, it's an untold story, but it's a
Mhm.
very familiar story, especially to us black gay men. If we haven't gone through something similar ourselves, then we definitely know somebody who has been like very similar to the movie. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely,
absolutely,
it was a real story.
it
Like for
was
me, like I battled the whole situation coming out because I didn't know I had to come out. I
right.
didn't know
You
what
shouldn't
gay
have to.
was or anything else. I just knew that I was me. I wasn't even having sex. I didn't have sex until I was like 23, willingly. Because I mean, we wanted to talk about it. There's other things that happen as a kid that you don't have control over. But as a
Right.
willful person who wants to have sex, I didn't have sex. I was 23.
Hmm.
Even with my girlfriend, I didn't do it because I was so afraid of it. But then coming down to like just know who you are, I was like, there's so much pressure because I am a PK. There's no way I could be a gay person. So I'm trying to date women because that's what I'm supposed to do. And I tried it for like 3 different women, and those
We all
relationships
tried
was
it.
really, really good. But I will tell you this: the day that I dated my ex-husband, um, I really realized I knew the definition of love for me. Like it was a different type of love that I had for him than I had with anybody that I ever dated. And I knew that I could never go back to dating women because I don't want to hurt no woman trying to date them to please somebody else.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
I mean, it's just
yeah,
not for you. I mean,
yes,
and anybody can understand that. Like, I love and appreciate women as well, but like, I want to get married.
right,
Yeah.
I want to get married to a woman. I don't think that's gonna be good for either of us. Let me marry a guy.
mhm, right, right.
It just will
Been
make.
there, done that.
Yeah, you don't want to get married, so Debonair?
I've
You
already
just
been
like to get
married.
married.
Oh, he was already married. Yes, he
Already
wasn't
been
getting
married.
married.
Okay. Well, I want to get
Listen, to
married.
get me onto that, to get me married again, it's gonna take a lot of work at this point.
Maybe you give me some pointers because I want to get married. And I was fighting for gay marriage, but
Yes.
that's me.
Well, I just want to thank you guys. Everybody that came in and chimed in about Moonlight. Again, you can watch it on Amazon Prime. You have to pay for it though. But if you have Showtime, it's on Showtime. If you want to go ahead and revisit this movie, I think this is a movie that I watched it enough because it makes me feel away. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
but
Can I ask you a question?
sure, sure.
When you say it makes you feel away, like what is the way that it makes you feel?
It makes me feel sad because when I'm watching TV, I mean when I'm watching a movie,
Mhm.
love stories are supposed to be happy ending, but it was so
Hmm.
realistic. It was so
Yeah.
realistic that it hit home. Especially when he told him, "Come on, I'm so dead." When he told him that he haven't touched no one since that day.
I know.
That was like 10 years. He said, "I ain't seen you almost in a decade."
I know. But you have to realize there are a lot of men out here that are like that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them men are touching women who don't want to do it. And we talk about this all
Yeah.
the time because on my podcast and even on my channel, I talk about it all the time because it's so sad because even when I came out, my mom made me go talk to this guy because my mom is a pastor. We went to her. We went to her church. I talked to this guy. Had been delivered from being gay or whatever. And I said, listen, I gave my mom all the whatever she wanted. I gave it to her. I said, listen, let me talk to this guy. If he tells me something that makes sense about being delivered, I'm down for it. You know, I would try my hardest not to be gay. So I went and met with the dude, and the dude was telling me that, you know, God gave us all our struggles. And I said, well, I mean, okay, we all know that. He said, and so I struggle every day. You know, I have a wife, I have children. He said, I struggle every day with this want for men. And I said, I don't feel like that's from God.
Right.
Like I personally, I don't feel like that's from God. I said, today you feel like that? He said, yes. I said, well, let me tell you something. And I said, honestly, I just cannot subscribe to that. I said, if you would have told me like you were delivered, like you just have no want for men again, I can get down with that. If God delivered you that way, I can get down with it. But you are struggling every day of your life. I said, that sounds like an addiction, like you on drugs, alcohol, or something like that. That doesn't sound like what God created you to be. And I said, at the end of the conversation, he said, you know, if you ever want to talk, here's my number. I said, no, if you ever want to talk, you call me.
Right.
That man, I'm gonna tell you, that man, he was delivered a month later.
What do you mean delivered?
He was with no women's no mores.
He was not women's. He had the children that he wanted. He wanted his life. And I think that honestly, I feel like growing up in the time frame that we grew up in, it's hard to express that. It's hard to live in your own truth.
Yeah,
I've been there, so I get it. But also, I could think that I came up in a time where they were, you know, legalizing gay marriage, and people were coming out and they were okay. And when I met my ex-husband, I was ready to risk it all. I didn't care because for me, this was my end goal. I wanted someone who I could depend on, you know, mentally and to understand this. And also, he was a pastor, so you know, biblically, I can understand, you know, what the Bible meant when they say, you know, about abominations and things like that. So I learned a lot in that relationship that I did not know before. Because prior to that, I stopped going to church because I was the person in church when my mom was at church going, well, I don't know if that's what that really meant, or you know, what does that mean? Or, you know, if God lets this, okay, well then why is this not okay? Like I was that person, but I feel like the more educated I became, the more I was able to be like, you know what? I have to be my own person because my relationship with God is my personal relationship with Him. This is my Father. I have to have that. I cannot go off what my mom said or what my grandmother said or what anybody else said to me. I have to go off of what God is saying to me.
right.
And for me, I've always been a good person. I've never wanted for anything. In my worst times, I've never went through anything that God's not delivered for me. And so I feel like being who I am always trumps what people tell me that God is. And I'm always going to live by that because I feel like my sexuality does not determine my salvation. And, you know, there's so many different things that are going around about, you know, there's so many books that are taken out of the Bible. There's so many different things that Christianity means to different people. There's different words, like the word abomination means, the word abomination, it sounds bad to people who just read the word abomination because the word bomb is in it. But if you really look up the terminology from the Hebrew slang of abomination, it means something of a different culture. And so people don't know that. And so people don't educate themselves about it. They just go off what people told them versus, you know, looking up for yourselves. I was a big person of the Blue Letter Bible. The Blue Letter Bible like breaks down the different words of the Bible. And so when when I was going to church, my ex-husband, he was saying, you know, that means something of a different culture. So I went to my mom, I was like, you know, this is what it means. We went to the Blue Letter Bible and it actually says that. It says something of a different culture. And what that meant was those people were trying to build their community because they were losing in wars during that time. They needed to build their community, so they needed to make children to build to build their armies to fight the battle of other people coming around. Nobody talks about that.
What you're saying, so Debonair, I just want to add on to that. What you're saying is, back in the Bible, what the message was: be fruitful and prosper.
Right.
So that's what you're saying. And right
Right.
now, it's not the same where we can be fruitful and prosper. No, we can't be.
God's not telling us to do that right now.
Yeah,
We are all they have been fruitful and multiplied multiple times at this point.
exactly.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we can't be fruitful and prosper anymore. The thing is, the earth is overpopulated, and not promoting myself, but I obviously wrote a book about this, and what a homosexuality has always, how I understood it, and the way it has been in nature. It is it's nature's response to overpopulation.
Absolutely.
And look at what happens in animals. We have transgender animals.
Right.
Clownfish, when there's too many males in the population, they transition. Some of the males transition into female.
Right.
There's a lot of it. And then for people who cannot transition,
Mm-hmm.
how does nature handle it? Nature handles it by making
You're
some of
talking
us
about like
gay.
amphibians, like they
By
can be
making some of us
they
gay.
can
Right.
yeah, they
And
can
and and,
they
um
can
and Levine, do you talk about this in your book, Chicken Caesar Salad for the Gay Soul?
I
Right.
sure do. Yes. And I brought up the whole because
Mm-hmm.
my book was not my. I want to be very clear. My book was not my opinion on being gay or like what I have to say about being gay. It's a study of other people's what other people have to say about it. So I look at the gay brain, how the gay brain is different from
Mm-hmm.
the heterosexual brain.
Now, question.
but you
Now, yeah. So, question. Going back to the film, right?
mhm.
Kevin, he was busting. Busting it wide open with the females too,
Mhm.
but he still had a connection with Chiron. Because
Mhm.
do do you see him as a gay male or fluid, or just had that one? He had that connection with Chiron. I mean,
I
this
don't
your
think that
Sabrina,
he
go
had an
first.
what'd you say?
I said, so Sabrina, go first. That's what I said.
I don't think that he had opportunity to explore either side. I feel like he
I know.
was
I'm just saying,
exposed.
like, based on what we got. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
they
No,
both.
that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like he had an opportunity to explore. So I feel like this is the person he feel like he should have been with. Has he explored with
Mhm.
anybody other male? Probably not, because that's who he thought he should be with. It could be a one-time thing for him. And I think
Right.
that the conversation that we're having here is this: just because he has friends with this man does not mean he's a gay person. He
Bingo.
could just have been, he could have been,
Bingo.
trying it out, or he could have fallen in love with this man. But that's the only man he could have fallen in love with.
Mm.
Does that make him a homosexual? No. Does that make him
No.
bisexual? No. He tried something out that he didn't like. We try different foods out that we don't like every day. Go back to them. So hey,
I'm a her cat with the damn salad with the gay in the book.
salad rainbow.
Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, that is a great. Thank you. That was a great. That was a great breakdown on it. So I just want to thank you guys again for chiming in. Because I am a heterosexual mother, and I mean
Well, I didn't know that.
I
woman.
didn't know that either.
What
Okay.
heterosexual woman, right?
Yeah.
So and even though this is a Blassics to me, and I didn't think about anybody because this is all things about all things that I love. But I'm glad that you guys chimed in on this conversation because just because I'm straight, I feel like as Black people, we are in cinema, in TV, we are multifaceted and we shouldn't be represented in certain one way. It should be a multiple of what a plethora of ways that we should be representative. And from my opinion, I think this story was greatly, good. I mean, like realistically told, even though it was based on a semi-autobiography of Terrell. But one thing I say about Barry Jenkins, he said that he was Chiron, quiet, reserved. It wasn't, the part about, he's straight, but it was still like he grew up poor. He was very reserved. He didn't really talk about much. And lived in poverty, and his mother was addicted to crack and everything like that. So I felt like those things was, executed because it was coming from a place of where he know. But I thought that from me, and that's why I was asking y'all, did he execute the part of the coming of age story of a young man and, you know, navigating who identity was through hurt and identity through sexuality and, an identity through abuse? Did he execute all those factors, all those faceted things on there?
I'll,
And
I'll,
so,
I'll, I'll tell you this. I've had a experience with a friend he's heterosexual. When I was growing up, we had
I know, right?
a
Yeah.
gay situation, but I don't know him to have like gay interactions anymore. And he's kind of been through the same situation where his mother was on drugs. They didn't have a lot in their households, and I don't even know why he chose me. Maybe because he picked up that I might have been gay. Because, like I said, I was very feminine growing up. Maybe I was the person he chose that with, but for me, even now, like it's really weird for him to reach out to me now because I'm like, I don't want to, but I get this story because it's a story that's been happening for a
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
lot of Black people
mm-hmm.
that don't tell that story because it's taboo. I can't remember what I was just watching the other day. Oh, matter of fact, yes, I do because we're gonna talk about my podcast on Thursday. Sukiana and this another girl, I can't remember what her name is, but she was talking about this, and it's real. Like dudes have interactions with guys, and they just don't have anymore.
Mm,
And
Well,
I pulled the clip. I don't remember what it was from. I wish I could tell you what it's from, but
mhm.
it's like, if if this guy does do this, do we automatically just box him into as a gay person?
and,
Right,
Do we
right.
box him
for
into
me,
as a
the answer.
bisexual person? Or is the person who just tried it and didn't like it? What if
Right,
the man was in jail? This is all he can get. When he gets out of jail,
right,
does he still long for this? You know what I'm saying?
right,
There's so
right.
many different facets of this conversation.
Exactly.
But I feel like as Black people, we're very judgmental when it comes down to men on men stuff. And I
Okay.
don't like this. I want to say, I do want to say this because I'm going to stop after this, but I do want to thank you for having this conversation as a Black woman because a lot of Black women do not have this type of conversation. And I think it's very healthy because we can have it all day. We can say, this ain't what it is. It's not all the time. But for a Black woman to have this conversation, it's very important because
Yeah.
a lot of Black women don't understand this. They don't understand that there's a difference, or talk to other gay men on a platform and say, hey, what do y'all think? Or how do you feel about this? Let's talk about this. So I just think that this is very important. That's why I'll make sure I stayed up for this because I really love the fact that you did this. So I just want to.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, okay. So, I want to know why is one popcorn in the chat? Is the one popcorn because you give the film a one popcorn? I'm not sure, Lamar, but let me know why is a unicorn in there. Um
Exactly.
and I mean and
Yeah.
maybe you wasn't feeling that story, maybe you wasn't feeling that story, but I'm glad that it was told. I'm glad that it beat out La La Land because it was trash. They couldn't sing and they couldn't dance.
Mhm.
And I honestly, when I kind of don't see it. Oh, okay. So he give it multiple popcorn to the chat. Period. Okay, good. And I'm glad that you guys glad that I brought this up because this is one of my favorite movies, a Blassic. And I don't, as you say, it's a gay movie. For me, I don't see it as a gay movie because
Me either.
I mean it is, but I'm just saying,
I didn't
like,
mean to say it was a gay movie. I didn't mean to say that.
no, right. But I'm just saying, like, for me, I just was like, it was a good story told about, coming of age, navigating identity, sexuality, understanding. And at the end, um, I'm just, I'm just at all. And I'm glad that you
It's,
guys,
thank you.
like that Barry did
Controversy because of a lot of
I just want to say, I just, just I guess my last statement about the movie is, I do think that it was a completely, again, a beautiful story, and I think that so Debonair can also co-sign with me about how real it was. And for me, it was a movie about the just explained sexual fluidity. I have more straight friends than I do gay friends. And do my straight friends sometimes blur the line? The answer is yes. Do I think that they're gay? No. You know, I've had my straight friends who literally pulled me aside and been like, "What if you were my secret girlfriend and we just didn't tell anybody?" Or you know, like certain stuff where it's or I would watch you in a porno, but
Mhm.
only if you were having
Oh,
sex with
well,
girls.
all right. They want to
Oh,
watch you in a. They
that's
want
my
to.
that's my
They want
they
to watch
all
you in a smoker. They want to watch you in a
they said that, but
in
they
a
said
steamy.
they said that, but they said only if it's with a girl. But my question was like, then why do I have to even be involved? You know what I mean? So, like,
Yes.
I don't want to see
It's very
you.
weird situations like that.
So
So
thank you,
yeah,
so Devin. So sexuality is just fluid,
it
and I
is.
think that this movie sort of just showed that it is fluid, and that's what I
Mhm.
appreciate about it. I don't think that you're gay if you're interested in one man, or even if you have sex with one man. You know,
Mhm.
I don't think that makes you gay. You know,
Right.
I think it makes you fluid,
Yeah.
and I think
Makes
it's
you
a good
fluid.
story
That's
about people who
right.
are just kind of like being fluid, which I think is the new thing for the future of
Listen,
everybody.
fluid been around. It's just that people are more open about it. It was just people calling
You're
it
right.
freaky. But you know,
I think fluid is a more reasonable explanation though, because
yeah,
people
reasonable
do like
explanation.
what they like, and sometimes you might meet a woman or a man that you like that
Hmm.
you may not like. I feel like people just love people sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't look the same as what you thought it was going to look like.
Right, right.
And I feel like fluid is like a label for it, but I don't feel like as humans, like we just fall in love with people sometimes. I fall in love with women sometimes
Thank you.
before. But you know, looking back, I don't think I would marry that woman before, but
Right.
I fall in love with women before it. I think that's what that looks like. I think that we as Black people have to have these kind of conversations because at the
I
end of the
agree.
day, we have to stop separating each
Yep.
other as women,
Yeah,
as men, as sexualities, as skin tones, as everything. We are Black people who need to support each other at the end of the day, period.
I agree. Any last words, Levon, that you want to say before we go about this movie and how impactful it was? So you can tell me in like 25 seconds or less.
That's what I just said was the last thing I had to say. Yeah, that was my last statement. You know, I think the
Thank
sexuality is
you.
fluid. I think that everybody should just not judge.
Mm.
And again, if you have sex
As
with
long as it's consenting adults.
right, doesn't mean that you're gay. Does not mean like I have straight friends who have had sex with men and then have like, no, I don't like it.
Like,
But and then they're straight.
you
Right.
have
I
gay friends who have sex with women and said, I don't like it.
I have had sex with women, and I consider myself gay.
Right.
So there you go.
There
So
you go.
there you go. There you
All
go.
right, Q, if you're still there, Leslie's over there for
Sweet.
your nephew. He probably dipped
Did you
out.
fall asleep?
What's happening? What I missed? What's going on? Who's Levon sleeping with women? What happened?
That's what he said.
Years ago.
Yeah, years ago. Oh, I would just say that you have any last thoughts before we wrap up, before 25 minutes about the movie and how impactful or the conversation
You're
of
mad.
fluidity. So,
The movie was great. I can see that a lot of people were deeply impacted by the movie. It definitely has a spot in your heart. Clearly, popcorn it shows. You're very passionate about it. Fluidity. I completely agree, and most people should probably know or have already heard that I believe that sexuality has no gender, and so it's all chemistry based, and so people like to
bumping
tend to
uglies. Say let me stop.
not bumping uglies. People like to put labels on things so they can understand it to make it make sense for them.
Mhm.
Like the red
I
label convention.
but no, it was a very great, insightful movie. A lot of people can relate to it. I personally feel as though I can't relate to the story, but I can understand how it means and it translates to other people in that situation. So I
Right.
get that part. Other than that, I'm good. I appreciated the dialogue and the conversation with everybody.
Yep.
It's been fun. Yeah.
Yep.
I told you
All
my
right.
edible
So
kicked in
Deb,
tell. I've been
30.
struggling.
You know
Yep,
what? So Deb
30
already gave us. He done gave us some
Okay.
many gems and
He did.
insights
He
and
did.
everything. Yes.
I will tell you this. There was a lot of gay men who were upset about that movie because the love
Gay
story
who?
that happened at the end. and they wanted that part because they felt like,
Right, but it was realistic though, right?
It was realistic. It was very realistic, but there was a lot of gay men that was upset because they wanted the representation of the masculine being into the relationship, and I got it. But I mean, like, listen, this is really real, though. This really happens. So I didn't want to say that part before you got off of here. Again, I've already gave you everything that I had. So that's it.
Yeah,
we need a part 2.
I loved Andre Holland. He gives me, I don't know, he gives me like ambiguity. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if Andre Holland is gay or straight. He give me Prince. Okay, I love Andre Holland. I loved him from The Nick back in the day when he was on that show, The Nick. And then he, recently, he was on Passing. But Javante Rose, that's my boo. Period. Black ATL adult Chiron. But okay, again, thank you guys for joining me. As we wrap this up. All right, so you can find Levon at Levon's Library. Make sure you subscribe to him. You can find Q at Red Label and Confession Reactions. And you can also find So Debonair at So Debonair. All right.
Everywhere. So Debonair, everywhere.
Yes. And you can also find Cat in the Chat at Creatively Cat. Make sure that you subscribe to all of them. Subscribe
Did
to
you
all
see her artwork?
I'm sorry.
Of course.
Did you see the artwork she did with the octopus?
She's
of
the main
course.
artist.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
of course. She's the main artist.
Amazing.
Sorry,
Yes.
I just celebrate that.
Great.
Yes.
The artist in the group.
So,
that is the artist in the group. Like, she's
thank
great.
you guys for joining me tonight instead of last night because I was wounded and tired. But thank y'all for joining for my episode of Blassics. Next week you'll be seeing me on another episode of Blassics. Next week around this time, 10:15 or 9. It will be up on there. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. Sorry. I just want to thank everybody for chiming in and having this dialogue and discussion about my Blassic. It was amazing. Thank you guys for having me. I want y'all to come back. Next week, I'm going to drop the link on another Blassic of mine, and you're welcome to chime in about it and why I call it a Blassic. Again, if you have not watched Moonlight, please watch it and refer it to a friend. It's a great movie. It aged well. It's great storytelling, great acting, and everything like that. So again, I want to thank you guys for coming out. And until next time, bye-bye.